is Samuel, and I'm the channel manager for the Baltics, among others, at F5. And I will speak little bit about what we at F5 like to speak about, and that's applications. In fact, we have been doing application security ever since 2004 now, and we're trying to kind of scout for the trends, but also look a bit into the future, what we might see around it. So, speaking about applications, we have to compare where we have been. And back when we started in kind of application security, the word, and in this case a concert, looked a little bit like the picture on the left. And now in 2023, the picture on the right is more what we are looking at, and one might ask if people is even enjoying the concert. Yeah, not only for the private persons, but also for the businesses, the meaning of applications is increasing. The importance of applications is increasing, and many companies rely on applications to bring in revenue, to kind of interact with customers and so on. So it's really been that the application security topic nowadays is business security. The application and their use has led also to that there are more applications now than ever before. And in fact, in 2022, we saw that for the first time, there were more organizations that had more than 200 applications than had less than 200 applications. Also, it's not only the absolute number that's changing, but also how they are built. And today, 40% of applications are either modern or use some sort of modern components. However, even though applications has changed, we see a lot of similar faces that we saw 20 years ago in this slide of the OWASP top 10 biggest security threats to applications. For example, the number 3 on this list, so the injection piece, that's actually older than me. And also, it's been on this list for many times. Almost every time this has been out, it's been on that list. They release these lists on a regular cadence. It's almost always been on the top. And it begs the question that why have we still not figured this out? We know how we can solve the problem, but we see this popping up over and over again. And moving on from the applications and talking a bit about the modern applications build on APIs. And Gartner in 2021 actually predicted that APIs were going to be the biggest attack vector going forward. And now this summer, actually, great timing, the OWASP Foundation actually released an OWASP Top 10 for APIs as well. And one thing which we might comment here also on this list, I encourage you to take a look at it, it's very good. We see a lot of common faces with the applications, so we see a lot of the same risks that are kind of targeting applications. We see kind of the same risks in the API space. So for example, security misconfiguration is also in the application OWASP Top 10, server-side request forgery, and also a bunch of authentication problems and so on. But why did Gartner make that prediction? I think it's down to how the APIs are kind of being treated today, and also the characteristics of them. Partly, like applications, they make up a great target for the attackers because they expose your data. In many ways, actually, the APIs can expose more data than your applications. Also, they might be an easier target because they kind of create the backdoor. If you have the front door very well protected, they create a backdoor into your application data. Also, when we have these DevOps practices, we should release code faster. We have those demands on ourselves. We see that these are easily exposed and is frequently exposed, but they are kind of hard to secure, partly because they are not as well documented as our apps are today. We have major issues with how we are kind of documenting the APIs and protecting them from there. For example, it could be a test API that makes the app work that has somehow went into production environment and is posing a backdoor, what we call a shadow API. Also, we see them drastically increasing in numbers, and I just want to show this prediction that we made in 2022. And we see that from 24 and onwards, even the most conservative predictions point to a drastic increase in the number of APIs. So we really need to take this seriously. Also, another topic that you probably are going to hear about today is some sort of automated traffic or bot traffic. Call it AI, call it machine learning. The fact is that 47% of all internet traffic today is made up of automated traffic, and 30% of all internet traffic today is by bad bots in this case. And these bad bots present a couple of risks. First thing is that they scan for these vulnerabilities that we saw in the application, the OWASP Top 10, for example. They scan for zero-day vulnerabilities also in the applications, and they can also be actively targeting those applications or those vulnerabilities. This is making it really hard to kind of employ the right countermeasures if you are just dealing with human power. So in some way you will need to target or to hinder the automation with your own automation. Also, if we take a look at, for example, logins here, this chart here is about the human success ratio of, or what we believe is human at least, the success ratio of logins at the site. If we see anything more than, for example, 60 to 85%, it might be that we are introducing customer friction by having our bot protection set too high and doing a lot of false positives. But also, if we see too low of a success rate, it could be a proof that we are experiencing some sort of credential stuffing attacks where bots are trying to figure out the passwords. Also, another thing which kind of is not mentioned that much, but also it was a little bit down to what was said in the last presentation. These bots are actually exhausting your resources. So 30% bad bots, of course that's going to have an impact to your environment. We can talk about things like denial of wallet, where we, instead of target an application that is in a data center, we target applications in an auto-scaling environment. But even though they are auto-scaling and they are keeping the app up and running while we're having kind of this flood of bots, we will also pay the bill at the end of the month. This happened to a Norwegian municipality through this weather station. This weather station was continually sending requests to other parts of applications for this municipality, and at the end of the month they ended up with a bill from their ISP of 1.5 million. Also, speaking about denial of service, we of course have heard a lot about DDoS attacks. They have been in the news in the latest, but I do want to provide some good news here as well. It's that according to our data, the number of DDoS attacks is actually going down. And that might be due to us being better at employing different protections, for example, doing ISP-based protection or having some sort of DDoS scrubbing service. Also, it could be down to the cost of compute. But yeah, we have kind of gotten them to go down at least. But if we look into the different vectors, if we separate these attacks, we see kind of that it's not only one DDoS attack, but there is actually several kinds of DDoS attacks. And if we see the application layer DDoS attack, we see that that one has actually increased by 165% in 1 year. And why is it that these have increased so much and probably will continue to increase? It's down to a few characteristics of them. So first and foremost, not being big and dumb like the network layer attacks. They're a bit smaller and smarter. They target components of the application that requires less traffic to actually break the application. So it might be something that's consuming a lot of resources like downloading or uploading files into an application. And also, when we speak about, for example, bots and AI and machine learning getting smarter, these attacks have also gotten smarter and gotten better at preventing our countermeasures. So let's say that we, for example, block a certain geographical region from accessing our applications. They will go back then and retool and launch an attack from another location, for example. This makes it really hard for us to use humans to actually counter these application layer attacks. They will just go back, retool, and attack you again. Also, one reason why we see this a lot is that they are actually cheaper than the volumetric big-scale attacks. So those are all kind of the external threats that are targeting our applications and some trends around those, but we have also increased the complexity of securing our applications and done so very much by ourselves. Back in 2013, we were mainly in data centers, of course. We thought that maybe we will move all our applications to a public cloud. Of course, we didn't. It was actually wrong on multiple levels, that prediction. This is kind of where we ended up, and according to us, this is our kind of best guess based on the data that we have, where our applications are deployed today. And not only does the kind of infrastructure that we build our applications in change, but also how we build our applications have changed dramatically. Instead of being one code base, a monolithic application, we see that we have the microservices applications, or the modern apps. As we said, 40% of all apps are considered as modern today. These are more dynamic and communicate and stitch together a whole application experience through the APIs. But when we are stitching together a whole application experience in this kind of infrastructure, we are kind of moving into this world where we have to run a lot of APIs, a lot of machine-to-machine communication, and we end up in quite a complex infrastructure. Also, this is very, of course, good if you're an attacker, because you will have a largely expanded threat surface for the applications. Speaking also about the APIs that we talked about, it's really hard to keep track of all your APIs in this kind of infrastructure. And it's been a real change in only 20 or even 10 years to go from what we thought would be this to actually moving into this reality. We might think that this kind of complexity is not what is faced by most organizations. But the fact is that our data points towards that only 15% of companies today are in only one environment. And in fact, over 60% is in 3 or more environments. And when we are talking about this multi-cloud or multi-site scenarios, we see that we face a couple of problems. For example, around how we manage the complexity, of course, how we deliver the applications, but importantly, how we keep a good security in this kind of infrastructure. So, takeaways from this. Application vulnerabilities are still relevant. Application vulnerabilities that are 20 years old are still relevant. APIs, as we saw in the last slides, they are presenting kind of a new attack vector that's hugely growing. And bots, of course, bots are getting more sophisticated. They are getting smarter, but they are also increasing in numbers as well. DDoS attacks, of course, network level DDoS is still important, but we also need to pay attention to the application layer. And also, we see that infrastructure makes all of this worse when we introduce a lot of complexity. So, what is kind of the solution to this thing? It was Gartner that came up with the expression of WAP, or Web Application and API Protection. So this kind of talks about a lot of these challenges that we have seen. So the application vulnerabilities handled by a web application firewall. We have API protection as a part of this. We have bot protection, and not only bot protection that is managed by a human and is kind of targeting the junk bots, but also the ones that are a bit more sophisticated and that we will see get even more sophisticated with time. Also, of course, DDoS is in this kind of solution as well, where it's not only the network layer DDoS, but also takes into account the application layer. Of course, F5 has created, we have created our own platform for this. It's a SaaS platform. It's probably our simplest platform to use yet. Anton will happily show it to you in the booth. So that composes of web application firewalls, API security, bot defense, and DDoS mitigation, packaged into a nice solution and delivered to absolutely any piece of the infrastructure that you might have. This reduces the complexity also that we would face if we would have one solution for each environment by just treating it as one big whole environment and securing all of that from an application and API standpoint. I will, with that, open up if there is any questions that you might have around it. And thank you very much for tuning in.
Yeah, round of applause again. So, Samuel, what's often overlooked when it comes to application security?
Yeah, I would say when we're speaking about this that we were talking about now, I would probably say that it's that we don't know. It's that we don't know, for example, how much bots we're seeing to the application. It's hard to get that visibility. We might not know if we are being attacked in some way. We might know when the service is down by an application layer DDoS attack, but we might not have visibility into that from the start. Also, of course, the API question. How do we protect something that we don't know exists when we're speaking about shadow APIs, for example, undocumented APIs? How do we protect something that doesn't exist? It's kind of a challenge. I would say that is kind of a big challenge, I would say. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you, Samuel. I will take the remote and a little gift bag from us. So
oh, nice. Thank you.
Thank you.